to enhance, to make interest, right? So imagine that if the pathogen is getting entered into our body, our macrophages may not recognize that it is the pathogens. It needs some support, right? So soon after the pathogen get into our body, what this complementary protein will do is that it will go and bind to the pathogens and make our macrophage to recognize this as the pathogens. Then you know the mechanism what is happening inside the macrophages. Then another thing is that it complement, activates and attacks various cells of innate immunity. Okay, what is happening is these complement cells will increase the inflammation. Inflammation means what? Immune response, immediate immune response. And then complement protein create MAC to live cells. So what is happening? These complement cells will be binding to the pathogens and then it will be lysing out the cell membrane which is present over the pathogens and then it will lyse out. And then another thing is that I hope you all remember the word I said, that antigen antibody complex, right? Antigen antibody complex. If is there any antigen antibody complex which is not required for our body, okay, there the complement will bind and then it will be making it to bind to the erythrocytes and then these cells will be transported to this antigen antibody complex will be transported to the liver and the spleen. In the liver வந்து என்ன ஆகும்? Digestion, right? So liver ல வந்து cells வந்து digest ஆகி it is one of the phagocytes மாதிரி நடக்கும், right? Liver ல. So it will be lysed out. So this is the role of the complement. Okay? So now you know about all the cells which are present in the immune system and the proteins which are present, that is the interferon as well as the complement proteins. So what are the inflammation? We will be getting the redness, heat, swelling, pain, loss of function, maybe ரொம்ப சிவியர் கண்டிஷன்ல வந்து வரும், நம்மளுக்கு வந்து சென்ஸ் இல்லாம போகணும். எல்லாருக்குமே COVID-19ல வந்து சிவியர் ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா என்ன சொன்னாங்க? டேஸ்ட் இல்ல, ஸ்மெல் இல்ல, ஓகேவா? ஸோ இதெல்லாமே வந்து one of the inflammatory reaction against the pathogens. Okay, so it will be non-specific என்றதுனால it will be last within 8 to 10 days. Sometimes and it will be persisting for the long time. If it is persisting for the long time, it is called as the chronic inflammation. So that will lead to the death as well, right? So immediate or the local or non-specific response. First step, what will happen? Chemical like histamine or leukotriene or the prostaglandin or chemotactic factors will be released and then these will be responded in the blood vessels. What will happen soon after it will be released? The blood vessel get violated. Okay, and then it will be, third step is what? It will be recruiting the leukocytes to be go to the margin and then it will be released out from the blood vessels and then it will produce the chemotoxins and then it will kill out the pathogens. And these neutrophils, eosinophils and macrophages are called as the cleaning cells. I told you, clean up roots. So fever, most important thing we should know, right? When we are getting the any pathogen enter into our body, our body temperature odane increase ஆயிடும். I want to say one thing, 100 degree வரைக்கும் need not to take any medicine. ஓகேவா? ஸோ soon after எனக்கு ஃபீவர் வந்த உடனே நம்ம வந்து மெடிசன் சாப்பிட்றேன்னு வச்சுக்கேன், அப்போ அந்த பேத்தஜன் வந்து நம்மளுடைய பாடியில் அப்படியே தான் இருக்கும். I told you many times, right? Why we are getting the fever? Because our metabolic reaction has been increased due to the infection that leads to the increase in temperature. Okay, so abnormal elevation of the body temperature. So what is happening? First one, how with the fever is, how we are getting the fever means, first is release of pyrogens such as the interleukin 1 or the interferons, and then it is started to produce the toxin from the infectious agents, drug reaction toxins as well as the brain tumors. So these are all the factors which is increasing the body temperature. Okay, and then another thing is that pyrogens, I told you, right? These pyrogens will be released and then it will be circulated through the body and then it will enter into the hypothalamus. நம்மளுடைய brainல fever வரும்போது சொல்லிருப்பாங்க right. so hypothalamus வந்து infect ஆயிடுச்சுனா என்ன ஆகுது, affect ஆயிடுச்சுனா feverனால ஈவன் வந்து பிரெயின் டெத் ஆகும், இல்லாட்டி ஏதாவது ஒரு ஆர்கன்ஸ் வந்து ஃபெயிலியர் ஆகிறதுக்கும் சான்சஸ் இருக்கு. அதனால வந்து நம்மளுக்கு நிறைய ஃபீவர் வரதுக்கும் நம்ம வந்து விடக்கூடாது. ஓகேவா? ஸோ வந்து ஒன்று வந்து டியூ டு த ரிலீஸ் ஆஃப் த பைரோஜன்ஸ் ஆர் தி டாக்ஸின் விச் வில் பி secreted by the infectious agents or the drug reactions and the brain tumors. These are all the factors which is increasing the body temperature called as the fever. So what are the benefits of the fever, right? As I said, we have the benefits as well as the risk of a fever. What is the benefits means it will be increasing, inhibiting the reproduction of the bacteria as well as the virus, and it is promoting the interferon activity, and also it is increasing the activity of the adaptive immunity, what we are going to discuss next. Okay, and then it is accelerating the tissue repairing. Repairing means what? Either if any damage is there in our tissue, it will be repaired. During that time we will be getting the fever. Even நம்மளுக்கு அடிபட்டுச்சுனா sometimes வந்து fever வந்துரும் தெரியுமா, ஏன்னா நம்மளுடைய tissue is getting repaired. Okay, and then increasing the clamps on endothelium of capillaries in lymph nodes, that will be allowing the immune cells to migrate through the margin of the blood vessels. Okay, and then it will be recommended to leave a low fever untreated. As I said, 100 degree வரைக்கும் fever இருந்துச்சுனா வந்து நம்ம untreat பண்ணாம இருந்தா these are all the benefits we will be getting. Or if you are having the above 100 degree என்ன ஆகும் அப்படின்னா it will be very dangerous to the children, and also it will be changing the metabolic pathways, and then it may be denaturing the proteins which is present in our body. We all know that all the enzymes are proteins. So the enzyme reaction only taking place in our body. If it is denaturing the enzyme, what will happen? The metabolic reactions will be get collapsed. That will lead to the other complex, right? And then what will happen? Sometimes on the we will be having the brain damage. As I said, what will happen? The temperature will directly go and affect the hypothalamus of the brain. So this is about the innate immunity. So summary, as I said, barriers and some cells are involving in the innate immunity and also chemical signals. So the most important point I highlighted in the red color is the innate mechanisms were present prior to the development of lymphocytes. Lymphocytes நம்மளுக்கு டெவலப் ஆகிறதுக்கு முன்னாடியே வந்து through the evolution, right? Lymphocytes வந்து எவல்யூஷன்ல பார்க்கும்போது டெவலப் ஆயிருக்காது, பட் ஆனா அதுக்கு முன்னாடியே வந்து நம்மளுக்கு வந்து என்ன இருக்குன்னு பாத்தீங்க அப்படின்னா என்னது, இந்த இம்யூன் சிஸ்டம் வந்து டெவலப் ஆயிருக்குது, இன்னேட் இம்யூனிட்டி வந்து டெவலப் ஆயிருக்கு அப்படின்னு வந்து சொல்றாங்க. புரியுதா? And then when the development of the lymphocytes has been taken place, only the adaptive immunity had been developed during the evolution. So we all discussed so far about this process, right? What is happening in innate immunity lymphocytes சேர்ந்து ஒரே ஒரு இது வந்து என்னது இந்த picture. Next on the adaptive immunity. As I said, adaptive immunity two types. One is the humoral, next one is the cell mediated. So cell mediated T cells are involving. Humoral, directly it will be producing the antibodies. So you know what is adaptive immunity also, right? Adaptive means what? Our body is trying to adapt to kill the pathogen which is entering into our body. Okay? So as I said, adaptive immunity is humoral immunity, cell mediated immunity. So humoral immunity means what? Extracellular microbes. Soon after it is recognized by the B lymphocytes. These B lymphocytes will produce the antibodies. That antibodies will fight against the pathogens. I told you in the class also that all the pathogens are having the protein coating, right? So that could be considered as the antigen, right? So it will be reacting with the antibody and it will be lying down. Okay, this is the simple process which is taking place in the humoral immunity. And if you take the cell-mediated immunity, when the pathogen is entered, so it will be, what is happening? It will be recognized by the T cells, or then it will be giving the signal to the B cells to lyse out, or it will be giving the cytokines. That is the cytokines are nothing but the signaling molecule. Okay, then it will be giving the signal to the other molecules to kill out the pathogens. Okay. So now we want to know how long it is taking to develop the innate immunity and the adaptive immunity. Innate immunity is the immediate response. So you can see that within 12 hours of infection, we will be developing all the innate immunity system, that is the epithelial barriers, phagocytes, dendritic cells, complement as well as the natural killer cells will be working together, and it will be lyse out the pathogens. But if you take the adaptive immunity, what it has to be done? First, it should be recognized by the B lymphocytes. Then it will be developed as a plasma cells. These plasma cells will be producing the antibodies. These antibodies will be fighting against that, right? Or what will happen? Antigen presenting cells will be recognized by the T lymphocytes. Then these T lymphocytes will be converted as the effector T lymphocytes. One half will be saved as a memory cells, and another will be for the production of the antibodies. That will be coming in the next slides. Okay, so it will be taking 1 to 7 days minimum. Okay, so if it is innate immunity, it will be happening within the 24 hours. If it is the adaptive immunity, it will take for about 7 days. That's why when we were getting the COVID-19, people were saying, okay, when I started to get fever, what they will say? They spreaded the COVID-19, right? So after 4 to 5 days only, we will be started to get the fever. Because what? Our cell is not knowing what it is. Our cell was not knowing what it is. Okay, so slowly it started to recognize, okay, it is the pathogens. Then our cells should prepare accordingly. Then it will fight against that. So it will take long time. So how these innate and the adaptive immunity responses are working together? I told you in the first slide itself, right? So when we were discussing briefly about the innate and the adaptive, I told you that sometimes the innate as well as the adaptive immunity will be working together in order to fight against the pathogens, right? So you can see in these pictures. So we are having the pathogens is getting enter into our body, and then we are having the surface defenses, that is the skin, air as well as the mucus, or the internal defense organism, that is the mast cells or the basophils, natural killer cells, complement, or the phagocytotic cells. So these cells are trying to catch or lyse the pathogens, right? I told you, right? So first barrier is the skin. If it is escaping from the skin, if it is going through the nose, our air or the mucus which is present in the nose will try to filter it. It will even escape into our body, right? Through the nose if it is getting into the lungs, or through the mouth if it is getting into the stomach, or through the even eyes. I hope you all remember the word. When the COVID-19 started, the people were saying that even if through our eye opening it is entering. Okay, so somehow the pathogen got into our body. Okay, so these cells will try to destroy it. Okay, those cells are also immune cells, but still, if it is innate, if not, if it is new, more work has to be done to kill. More work has to be done. அப்படின்னும் போது it needs the additional support. So அந்த additional support தான் என்ன பார்த்தீங்கன்னா adaptive immunity, that would be done by the T lymphocytes, antigen presenting cells as well as the B lymphocytes. Got it? So imagine நம்மள ஒரு இடத்துல இருக்கிறோம், நம்மளுக்கு நம்மளாலே பண்ணிக்க முடியும் கரெக்டா? ஸோ ஒரு டோர் க்ளோஸ் ஆயிருக்கும், இந்த டோர் க்ளோஸ் ஆயிருக்கு. ஸோ டோர்க்குள்ள யாரும் வரக்கூடாதுன்னா somehow they entered. பட் ஸ்டில் வந்து என்னது, அந்த ரோல் இருக்கிறவங்களே டிஃபெண்ட் பண்ணிக்க முடியும் அப்படின்னா நோ நீட், நம்மளாம் சேஃபா இருக்கிறோம்னு அர்த்தம். இல்ல அவங்களும் பண்ண முடியாது, அவங்களுமே வந்து எஸ்கேப் ஆகி நம்ம கிட்ட வராங்கன்னா வாட் we have to do, we all together work to send off or lies out, right? So that's why we are calling it as the both the innate as well as the adaptive immunity are cooperatively or collectively working together, sometimes to fight against the pathogens. Okay. So this actually was how it is responding to the immunity. So I told you already, when the pathogen is getting enter into our body, what will happen? These native T cells, okay, will be binded with the MHC class 2 molecules, and then it will be activating the cells. Okay, so what it is happening? These cells will be activating the T cells in the presence of the MHC, major histocompatibility class 2. So we will be discussing about that in the forthcoming classes. Okay, then it will be activating these T cells to produce the many cells in order to produce the antibodies. Then these T cells will be replicated to make the many T cells. ஒரு T cells வச்சு பண்ண முடியாது இல்லையா? ஸோ அதனால அது என்ன பண்ணும், ஃபர்ஸ்ட் பேத்தஜன் வந்து இது பண்ணுவோனே, இட் வில் பி replicating to produce the more number of the T cells, and then these T cells will be differentiating into the memory cells or the effector cells. Okay, so memory cells means what? It will keep the memory. ஓகேவா? ஸோ வந்து ஈவன் வந்து when we born எல்லாருக்கும் வந்து ஸ்மால் பாக்ஸ் போட்டிருப்பாங்க. இப்போ நாங்களாம் குட்டி பசங்களா இருக்கும்போது வந்து ஸ்மால் பாக்ஸ் வந்து எங்களுக்கு எல்லாமே வரும். ஸோ வந்த அப்புறமா வந்து இப்பெல்லாம் வந்து யாருக்குமே வருது இல்லை. ஏன் அப்படின்னா வந்து வேக்சின்ஸ் ஆர் நத்திங் பட் தி நான் விருலண்ட் ஃபார்ம் ஆஃப் த பேத்தஜன்ஸ், ரைட்? ஸோ அப்போ வந்து அது போடும்போது நம்மளுக்கு என்ன ஆகும்னா, நம்மளுடைய டி செல்ஸும் பி செல்ஸ் என்ன ஆகும்னா ப்ராலிபரேட் பண்ணி அது வந்து மெமரி செல்ஸா வச்சுக்கும். புரியுதா? மெமரி செல்ஸ்னா என்னது? புதுசா ஒருத்தவங்க வீட்டுக்கு வரும்போது I told you, right? So வந்து first when we got into the first BSc classroom, என்னது, சோஃபியாவை பார்த்துட்டு what is your name we were asking, right? So சோஃபியா. then வந்து later வந்து என்னாச்சு, இப்போ நம்ம ஏ சோஃபியா எங்க போற, we were that much close, right? So I can easily recognize it. So similarly, when first time the pathogen is getting entered, so our immune cells are making the memory cells. ஸோ அதே மாதிரி பேத்தஜன்ஸ் திருப்பி வந்துச்சுன்னா என்ன பண்ணலாம், நம்ம ஈஸியா ரெகக்னைஸ் பண்ணி, ஈஸியா எப்படி சோஃபியா கூட நம்ம பேச முடியும் அந்த மாதிரி தான். ஸோ ஈஸியா ரெகக்னைஸ் பண்ணி ஈஸியா வந்து ஃபில் அவுட் பண்ணிடலாம் அப்படின்றதுக்காக ஒரு டைப் வந்து என்ன பண்ணுவோம்னா இது பண்ணி வச்சுக்கோம், மெமரி செல்ஸா பண்ணி வச்சுக்கோம். இன்னொரு டைம் என்ன மற்ற செல்ஸ் என்ன பண்ணும் அப்படின்னா இட் வில் பி ப்ரொடியூசிங் தி cytokines, and that the cytokines will be doing the phagocytic activity. Okay, so this is how the adaptive immunity response is taking place when we are having the infection. So note the point that innate will not create any memory cells, only the adaptive immunity will make the memory cells. That is the major difference between the innate as well as the adaptive. Why it is not making? It is non-specific. Innate immunity is the non-specific. It is not specific to the particular pathogens. But adaptive immunity is the specific immunity. What does it mean? It is specific to the particular pathogens. Okay. So I told you, right? T cell. So I told you that cell-mediated immunity. Do you remember that word? B cells will be producing the antibody directly, that is called as the humoral immunity. Another type of the immunity is the cell mediated immunity, that could be either the T cell dependent or the independent activation of the B cell. So T cell independent is the directly the B cells will be recognizing the pathogens and it will be producing the antibodies. Okay, and that is the humoral immunity. But another case is that when the pathogen, antigen on pathogen is recognized by the B cell receptors, okay, and then these B cells receptor will be bounded with the MHC2 molecules, that MHC2 molecules will be getting the signal from the T helper cells in order to increase the activity of the B cells. In order to increase the activity of the B cells. இப்போ வந்து actually வந்து நம்மளுக்கு சாதாரணமா வந்து I'm just sitting here. Okay. So I'm not. I'm just talking. Okay. I want to talk louder. What I have to do? I need some more energy. I need something else extra to do my performance well. Right. So similarly, B cells are performing well. Even it is producing the antibodies, but it needs to perform more. Okay. To fight against the pathogens. What that time will be? What is happening that time is that the T cells is involving. Okay, the T cells will be producing the cytokines, and then this will be sent to the B cells, and then it will be increasing the production of the antibodies. Okay, it is the signaling molecules. I told you, right? So that will be increasing the production. During that time, what will happen? Clonal expansion due to cell proliferation. Cloning na enadhu ஒரே மாதிரி இருக்கிற செல்ஸை வந்து திரும்ப திரும்ப பண்றது. கரெக்டா? ஸோ அப்போ வந்து நிறைய செல்ஸை வந்து பண்றதுனால some of the cells will be stored as the memory B cells, and some of the cells will be converted or developed as the plasma cells. These plasma cells will be producing the antibodies to fight against the pathogens. So ரெண்டு ப்ராசஸ்மே நம்மளுக்கு வந்து நடந்துரும். அதனால தான் வந்து இது என்னன்னு சொல்றோம் நம்ம T cell dependent, T cell independent. Okay, B cell is the main thing which is producing the antibodies. But வந்து என்னது இது இண்டிபெண்டா ப்ரொடியூஸ் பண்ணிடும். பட் வந்து என்னது இந்த ப்ராசஸ் நடக்கணும். If it needs to create a memory cells, if it needs to create the memory cells, it need the help of the T lymphocytes. Okay. So memory cells, I told you what I told you only. I just briefly kept it here in the briefing. How it is creating the memory cells. So it is creating the memory cells with the help of the T helper cells. So last, we all should know, right? So when I was keep telling like how our body, how the immune cells are responding to the pathogens, right? Now rapid and the dramatic antibody response. Okay, first when the pathogen is getting entered. Okay, this y-axis is the concentration of the antibody, how the antibody concentration is increasing when the pathogen is getting into our body. Okay, this is the time. So the slowly primary immune response, low affinity of antibody. First time நம்மளுக்கு வரும்போது என்ன ஆகும் அப்படின்னா கொஞ்சமா தான் antibodies வந்து produce ஆயிருக்கும், and moreover it will be having the low affinity towards the pathogens. And then when we are getting the secondary exposure, again நம்ம secondary exposure கொடுக்கும்போது என்ன ஆகும்னா we will be having already the memory cells, right? So that will respond fast and it will be producing the high affinity antibodies. நமக்கு எல்லாமே வந்து வேக்சின் போடும்போது ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டோஸ் செகண்ட் டோஸ் போட்டாங்க. நமக்கு இருக்கா? ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டோஸ் போடும்போது என்ன ஆயிருக்கும், நம்மளுடைய பாடியில வந்து மெமரி செல்ஸ் வந்து கிரியேட் ஆயிருக்கும், ஆன்டிபாடிஸும் நம்மளுக்கு வந்து கொஞ்சமாக தான் ப்ரொடியூஸ் ஆயிருக்கும். அந்த ஆன்டிபாடிஸ்க்குமே அஃபினிட்டி எவ்வளோ இருக்கும் நம்மளுக்கு வந்து தெரியாது. ஸோ ஆனால் வந்து என்னது செகண்ட் டோஸ் கொடுக்கும்போது ஆல்ரெடி நம்ம பாடியில் என்ன இருக்குது, மெமரி செல்ஸ் இருக்கு. ஓகேவா? அண்ட் ஆல்சோ நம்ம பாடி செல்ஸ் சரி, இட் ஷுட் ப்ரொடியூஸ் த ஆன்டிபாடி அகேன்ஸ்ட் தட் pathogen, then it will be producing the antibodies, and that antibodies will be having the high affinity. Okay, so this is how our immune system is functioning in our body. So these are all the people who are work together, okay, by timing. Okay, one period la ortho vandu enna pannirukanga, work panni da. These are all the people who work from the serum therapy to the checkpoint control, what we are studying or what we are knowing today in the immunology. Okay, so all the people have contributed for the development of the immunology so far. Okay, just to know. Okay, that's it. Any questions? So you can see the picture. We will kill you. So we are ready for the killing by our immune system, right? Do you have any doubt? Clear? So now you must be knowing what is immune system, what are the cells involving in it, right? And what is innate immunity as well as the adaptive immunity, and how these innate as well as the adaptive immunity working together in order to make the memory cells as well as the antibody production to lyse out the pathogens when it is getting enter into our body. Right? Okay, thank you.